No one remembered the first world the Empress destroyed. They only remembered the fear that followed. Across the galaxy, her name was never spoken out loud. It was written in reports, whispered in war rooms, and erased from public records. Fleets vanished when she arrived. Empires collapsed without warning. Whole species surrendered before her shadow touched their skies. She was called the Nightmare Empress. No one asked why she ruled alone. No one asked why she never took prisoners. No one asked why her throne room was always silent. On a forgotten edge of the galaxy, a human Deathworlder ship drifted through a debris field left behind by an old battle. The ship was small, patched together with mismatched plates, and clearly not part of any empire. Its pilot had no escort, no flag, and no reason to be there. He was not a hero. He was not important. He was just human. The ship detected a massive energy signature nearby, far beyond anything a lone vessel should approach. Every survival instinct warned him to turn back. Any other species would have done exactly that. Humans sometimes didn't. The pilot slowed his ship and adjusted course, following the signal. What he found was not an ambush. It was a battlefield frozen in time. Warships from 3 different civilizations floated dead in space, torn apart with impossible precision. At the center of it all was her flagship. Even damaged, it was terrifying. Black armor plates curved like blades. Energy shields flickered, unstable but alive. The Nightmare Empress was still there. The human should have fled. Instead, he opened a channel. There was no response. Sensors showed life signs, but faint. The ship was not preparing weapons. It was dying. Against every rule he knew, the human docked. Inside the flagship, silence pressed heavy. No alarms. No guards, no resistance. The halls were vast and empty, built for a ruler who never expected company. He followed the life sign to the throne chamber. She sat there alone. The Empress was nothing like the stories. She was tall, armored in living metal that moved with her breath. Her crown floated above her head, cracked and dim. Her eyes, once said to burn worlds, were dull with exhaustion. She did not rise. She did not attack. She simply looked at him, confused. "Why?" she asked slowly, her voice rough, unused. "Are you here?" The human stopped several steps away. He did not kneel. He did not threaten. He simply answered honestly. "Your ship was hurt," he said. "Mine can help." The Empress laughed, a sound that echoed too loudly in the empty hall. "You should be afraid," she said. "Everyone else is." He looked around the massive chamber, at the empty seats, at the untouched banners, at the absence of life. "I don't see anyone here to fear," he replied. Something flickered across her face, surprise, then anger. Then something much quieter, loneliness. She tried to stand, but her legs failed her. The crown flickered violently and dropped, clattering against the floor. The Nightmare Empress collapsed onto the cold metal steps of her own throne. The human moved forward without thinking. She tried to pull away, weakly. "Do not touch me," she whispered. "I destroy everything I touch." He paused, then gently offered his hand, not to grab, but to wait. "You're hurt," he said. "That doesn't make you a monster." Her eyes searched his face, looking for fear. She found none. Only concern. Real concern. No one had looked at her like that in centuries. The galaxy feared her because she never allowed herself to be known. Power was safer than connection. Fear was easier than trust. But this human did not know her history. He only saw someone breaking. Slowly, she accepted his help. He supported her weight, surprised by how light she felt beneath the armor. The living metal softened, responding not with aggression, but relief. As they moved through the silent halls, the Empress spoke in fragments, not commands, not threats, memories. She spoke of a time before war, before betrayal, before the throne. Of an empire that had demanded her strength, but never her heart. Of allies who turned on her when she refused to be a weapon. She became the nightmare because it was the only role left. The human listened. He did not interrupt. He did not judge. By the time they reached the medical chamber, the Empress was shaking. The crown lay forgotten behind them. As he worked to stabilize her injuries, alarms began to sound. Long-range sensors detected incoming fleets. Multiple empires had tracked her location, drawn by the chance to finally end her reign. The Empress closed her eyes. "It ends here," she said softly. "They will kill you for helping me." The human sealed the last panel and met her gaze. "Then I guess," he said, "they'll have to deal with a human first." For the first time since the galaxy learned to fear her, the Empress felt something unfamiliar tighten in her chest. Hope. And far away, as enemy fleets accelerated toward the dying flagship, the universe unknowingly crossed a line it could never uncross. Because a Deathworlder had seen the Nightmare Empress's broken heart and chose to stay. The first enemy ships arrived sooner than expected. They did not broadcast warnings. They did not ask for surrender. To them, the Alien Empress was already dead or about to be. Her flagship drifted powerless, shields flickering like a dying star. This was the moment they had waited centuries for. Inside the medical chamber, the Empress felt the change before alarms confirmed it. She straightened slightly, pain flashing across her face. "They are here," she said. The human was already moving. He rerouted power, sealed doors, and checked readings with calm speed. His hands shook only once, and even that passed quickly. "How many?" he asked. She closed her eyes, sensing the void beyond the hull. "Too many for my ship. Too many for you." He did not argue. Humans rarely argued with facts they couldn't change. Instead, he adapted. "Then we buy time," he said. She studied him closely. "You should run." "And leave you?" "Yes. No." That single word landed harder than any weapon. No one had ever refused her command like that. Not gently, not honestly. Her empire had been built on obedience and fear. This human offered neither. Outside, the first shots hit the flagship. The hull screamed as energy tore into weakened armor. The Empress winced, instinctively reaching for power that was no longer there. "I cannot protect you," she said quietly. "You already did," he replied, sealing another door. "By not killing me when you could." The ship shook again. Systems failed in cascading waves. Gravity flickered. Emergency lights cast long shadows across the chamber. The Empress watched him work, confused by a feeling she had no name for. He was fragile, soft, short-lived by galactic standards. Yet he moved with stubborn purpose, as if danger meant nothing. "Why?" she asked suddenly. "Why do humans do this?" He paused. "Do what?" "Stand between danger and someone they barely know." He thought for a moment. "Because if we don't," he said, "then fear wins." That answer stayed with her. More enemy ships arrived. Some held back, cautious. Others advanced recklessly, eager to claim the kill. Old grudges and ancient hatreds pushed them forward. The Empress felt something stir inside her. "Not rage, resolve. Help me sit," she said. He hesitated. "You're still injured." "I have ruled through worse," she said. "And I will not meet death lying down." He helped her to the central chamber, placing her back on the throne, not as a symbol of power, but as a seat of survival. The living armor reacted, flowing more strongly now, responding to her will. The crown fragments trembled. Slowly, painfully, they lifted from the floor and reassembled above her head. Not whole, not perfect, but alive. The human stepped back, awed despite himself. "You said you were finished," he said. "I was," she replied. "Until you reminded me why I started." Enemy forces breached the outer hull. Boarding teams prepared to enter. They expected traps. They expected monsters. They did not expect silence. The Empress stood. Her power did not explode outward like before. It focused, tight, controlled, different. She did not intend to destroy fleets. She intended to survive. She turned to the human. "Stay behind me." He shook his head. "Not happening." A faint smile touched her lips. "Stubborn creature. The first enemy soldiers entered the throne chamber. They froze, not because of her, because of the human standing beside her. Data flooded their visors: threat assessments, tactical overlays, warnings about Deathworlders. Humans were classified as unstable allies, unpredictable, dangerous under pressure. The Empress raised her hand. "Leave," she said, her voice steady, "or witness what happens when I am no longer alone." They hesitated. That hesitation cost them. The Empress struck not with overwhelming force, but precision. Energy rippled through the chamber, disabling weapons, collapsing shields, pinning soldiers without killing them. The human moved too fast, reckless, using debris and fallen weapons with instinctive efficiency. He was not elegant. He was effective. Within minutes, the chamber was secure. The Empress breathed heavily. The effort drained her more than she wanted to admit. She swayed slightly. The human caught her before she fell. For a moment, neither spoke. "You fought," she said softly. "For me, you're worth it," he replied without thinking. The words echoed in her mind long after the moment passed. More ships gathered outside. The enemy was regrouping, realizing too late that something had changed. The Empress looked out at the stars through a shattered viewport. For the first time, she saw them not as territory or threat, but as distance, as space she might cross without conquest. "They will never stop," she said. "As long as I exist, the galaxy will hunt me." "Then we change the rules," the human said. She turned to him slowly. "How?" He smiled, tired but determined. "By letting them see you as something other than a nightmare." The idea felt impossible. And yet, she had already done the impossible by trusting him. Alarms sounded again, but this time they were different. A new signal appeared on sensors, unmarked, unknown, holding position at the edge of battle range. The Empress frowned. "That is not one of theirs." The human checked the data. "It's not running either." Both understood what that meant. Someone was watching. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy was not just afraid of the Alien Empress. It was curious. The Empress straightened, drawing strength from that realization. "Then let them watch," she said. "And learn." The human stood beside her, facing the stars. Together. The unknown ship did not move. It did not charge weapons. It did not retreat. It simply watched. From the throne chamber, the Empress felt its presence like a quiet question hanging in the void. For centuries, every ship that approached her came with fear or hatred. This one carried neither. "That vessel is recording everything," she said. The human frowned at the display. "Let it." She studied him. "You are not worried." "I am," he replied honestly. But hiding never helped anyone. Outside, the enemy fleets held their distance now. They had expected an execution, not resistance. Reports were already spreading through their command networks. The Alien Empress was alive. Her ship still fought. A human stood beside her. Confusion spread faster than fear. Inside the flagship, emergency systems struggled to hold together. The human moved constantly, repairing what he could, rerouting power, improvising solutions with tools that were never designed for alien technology. The Empress watched him work. "You have no obligation to remain," she said quietly. "If you leave now, they may let you go." He didn't look up. "They won't. And if they did?" He paused, then answered without turning. "I'd still stay." That answer settled something inside her. She had ruled empires, broken alliances, ended civilizations. Yet no one had ever chosen her without being forced. The unknown ship finally transmitted a signal. Open channel. The Empress stiffened. Old instincts rose. She prepared for lies, threats, manipulation. The human accepted the transmission before she could stop him. A calm alien face appeared on the screen. Not a soldier. Not a ruler. A civilian, older, cautious, intelligent. "We are observers," the alien said. "We represent no empire." The Empress stepped forward. "Observers do not approach nightmares." The alien inclined its head. Nightmares do not shelter wounded ships. Silence filled the chamber. You are changing, the alien continued. The galaxy feels it. That frightens them more than your power ever did. The Empress's voice hardened. Then why are you here? To see if the stories were wrong, the alien replied. And to decide what we will tell others. The human folded his arms. Tell them the truth. The alien's gaze shifted to him. And what truth is that, Deathworlder? That fear isn't the whole story. The transmission ended shortly after. The Empress exhaled slowly. You have invited attention I cannot control. He met her eyes. You were already being hunted. This way, at least someone is listening. Outside, enemy commanders argued. Some demanded immediate attack. Others hesitated. Every delay gave the Empress time to recover, and time changed things. She felt her strength returning, slowly, unevenly, but real. Not fueled by rage, by purpose. I once believed ruling alone made me strong, she said. I was wrong. The human leaned against a console, exhausted. Nobody survives alone forever. She looked at him, truly looked at him, not as a weapon, not as an anomaly, but as a person. You are afraid, she said. Of course, he replied. Fear just doesn't decide for me. Her lips curved slightly. A small expression, almost a smile. A warning alarm sounded not from outside, but within. A final system failure. The flagship could no longer hold position. The human checked the data and went still. We can't stay here, the Empress nodded. Then we move. Where? She turned toward the stars. Somewhere the galaxy does not expect me to run. As the flagship began a slow, painful jump sequence, the enemy fleets reacted too late. Engines flared, weapons charged, but the Empress did not look back. For the first time in centuries, she was not retreating in defeat. She was leaving on her own terms. The jump tore space open. The unknown observer ship recorded everything. And across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. The Nightmare Empress had spared lives. The Nightmare Empress traveled with a human. The Nightmare Empress had changed. Fear began to crack. And where fear weakens, curiosity grows. The Empress closed her eyes briefly as the stars stretched around them. Whatever comes next, she said, they will not understand it. The human stood beside her, steady. They don't have to, he replied. Not yet. The ship vanished into the void. And the galaxy leaned forward to watch what followed. The jump ended in silence. The stars around them were unfamiliar, scattered thin across a region few maps bothered to name. The flagship drifted, engines weak but stable for the moment. No enemy signals followed. The Empress remained still for a long time. For centuries, movement had meant attack or conquest. This kind of quiet felt strange. They will talk, she said at last. They always do. The human checked systems, then nodded. Let them. Across the galaxy, the recordings from the observer ship spread faster than anyone expected. Not official broadcasts, not declarations of war. Short, incomplete clips passed quietly from one network to another. The alien Empress standing beside a human. Enemy soldiers left alive. A flagship retreating without destruction. The footage unsettled everyone. Some called it deception. A trap, a new phase of terror. Others argued it was weakness. The most dangerous lie of all. But a few saw something else. Change. On distant worlds, civilians whispered her name for the first time without fear. Not loudly, not proudly, but curiously. Inside the flagship, the Empress felt the shift before she understood it. The galaxy's attention pressed against her senses differently now. Less hatred, less certainty, more questions. The human approached quietly. You okay? She considered the question. No one had asked it sincerely in a very long time. I do not know, she admitted. I feel unguarded. That happens when you stop pretending you don't need anyone, he said gently. She did not correct him. The ship creaked as emergency repairs finished stabilizing critical systems. It would fly, but not fight, not yet. The Empress moved toward a viewport, gazing out into open space. "They will test me," she said. "Small fleets, probes, messages meant to provoke violence. Will you answer them?" the human asked. "Yes," she said. "But not the way they expect." Days passed, quiet days. The kind the Empress had never allowed herself before. She watched the human work, eat, rest, repair. Simple things. He asked nothing from her. That unsettled her more than hostility ever had. She learned things about humans in those days. That they bonded quickly. That silence did not frighten them as much as abandonment. That they repaired broken things because it felt right, not because they were ordered to. She also learned things about herself. That she remembered how to listen. That she laughed once softly when the human made a dry comment about alien engineering. That the living armor no longer reacted violently to his presence. One quiet cycle, a message arrived. Not from an empire. From a world on the edge of known space. Small. Unimportant by galactic standards. The Empress hesitated before opening it. The message was simple. A request for help. A trade convoy had been attacked. Pirates. No fleet would respond. They believed the Empress was near. They were afraid but desperate. The human looked at her. "You don't have to." She closed her eyes briefly. "All my life," she said, "I answered calls for help with fire. Perhaps I answer this one differently." The flagship altered course. News traveled fast. The Alien Empress was moving not to conquer, but to intervene. Pirates expected annihilation. They did not get it. The Empress disabled their ships without killing them. The human helped evacuate survivors. Supplies were redistributed. The convoy was protected, not claimed. Witnesses recorded everything. Across the galaxy, arguments exploded. She spared them. She helped them. She didn't take anything. Fear began to fracture into disbelief. Inside the flagship, the Empress felt something new settle into her bones. Not power, responsibility. The human watched her quietly. "You just changed how they see you." She shook her head slowly. "No, I changed how I see myself." That night, she sat alone on the throne, not because she had to, but because she wanted to think. She remembered the first world she destroyed, the cheers, the praise, the silence that followed. Now for the first time, the silence felt peaceful, but peace never lasted. A new signal appeared on long-range sensors. Official, coordinated, massive, multiple empires. They were not coming to fight. They were coming to talk. The Empress rose slowly. "They fear me less," she said. "And that makes them dangerous." The human stood beside her. "Then we stay honest." She met his gaze. "If they demand my surrender, then we walk away," he said. Together, the word echoed. Together. Outside, the galaxy prepared for a meeting that would reshape its future. And deep within the Empress, something fragile but fierce took root. Hope tempered by caution. Because she knew one truth better than anyone. The galaxy never forgave easily. The meeting took place in neutral space. No empire trusted another enough to host it. A massive station was assembled from shared resources, guarded by fleets that pointed their weapons at one another as much as at the Empress's approaching ship. The galaxy did not know whether to expect peace or destruction. When the Empress's flagship arrived, every channel went silent. She entered the chamber alone. At least that was what the galaxy expected. The human walked beside her. Murmurs spread instantly. Shock, confusion, disbelief. Humans were not diplomats. They were survivors, fighters, Deathworlders. Seeing one stand calmly next to the Nightmare Empress unsettled everyone. The Empress stopped at the center of the chamber. Representatives from dozens of species watched her closely. Some hid fear behind formal posture. Others showed open hatred. A tall delegate spoke first. "You stand accused of genocide, Empress." She nodded once. "I do not deny it." The chamber tensed. Another voice followed. "You ruled through terror. You erased worlds." "I did," she said calmly. Because terror was all I was taught to use. Anger rippled through the room. Excuses, someone hissed. The Empress did not raise her voice. No explanations. She looked around the chamber slowly. I was shaped by empires that praised my strength and punished my mercy. When I stopped being useful, they turned on me. Fear became my shield. The human shifted slightly, but said nothing. You fear me less now, she continued. That is why you invited me instead of attacking. And that fearlessness makes you dangerous. Silence followed. A smaller delegate spoke hesitantly. Why change now? The Empress glanced at the human. Because someone saw me when I was weak, she said, and did not use it against me. All eyes turned toward him. The human stepped forward. His voice was steady, but the weight of the room pressed hard. You're all asking the wrong question, he said. You're asking if she deserves forgiveness. Murmurs rose. The real question, he continued, is whether the galaxy can survive without repeating the same cycle. He gestured toward the delegates. You built her. You rewarded her. You feared her. And when it was convenient, you tried to erase her. The room shifted uncomfortably. She changed, he said simply, not because she was defeated, because she was given a choice. A powerful delegate leaned forward. And what happens when she changes back? The Empress answered before the human could. Then I expect you to stop me, she said. Not with fear, with unity. That honesty shocked them more than any threat ever had. Arguments broke out. Some demanded her execution. Others proposed exile. A few, very few, suggested alliance. Hours passed. Finally, a vote was called. Not for forgiveness. For observation. The Empress would not rule. She would not conquer. She would move freely, but under watch. Any return to terror would be answered by united force. The decision was fragile, temporary. The Empress accepted it without resistance. As the chamber emptied, the human walked beside her again. You didn't have to admit everything, he said quietly. She shook her head. Truth is the only power I trust now. Outside, news spread fast. Some worlds celebrated. Others prepared weapons anyway. Trust came slowly, if at all. Back aboard the flagship, the Empress stood alone for a long moment after the human left the chamber. Her reflection stared back at her in the dark glass. She did not see a nightmare. She saw responsibility. A warning alert interrupted her thoughts. A distress signal. This one was different. Human. The human pilot froze when he saw it. That's deep space, he said. No fleets go there. The Empress looked at the coordinates. Old territory. Places she once erased. We answer, she said. The human hesitated. If this is a trap, then it is one I face willingly, she replied. As the flagship turned toward the signal, neither of them spoke. Both understood what this meant. The galaxy was watching. And this time, the test would not be symbolic. It would be personal. The distress signal grew weaker as the flagship approached. It came from a damaged human exploration vessel, drifting near a shattered world. The planet below was scarred beyond recognition, cracked continents, poisoned oceans, and a sky that never fully cleared. The Empress recognized it immediately. One of her old war zones. Her armor tightened slightly, reacting to memories she had buried deep. I did this, she said quietly. The human did not answer right away. He was focused on the signal, adjusting their course, fighting the failing navigation systems. We don't know that, he said finally. She shook her head. I do. As they closed in, they saw the ship. Human design, old, civilian grade, not armed for war. Its hull was torn open, atmosphere venting slowly into space. Life signs were faint, too faint. The human didn't hesitate. He launched the rescue shuttle before the flagship had fully stabilized. I'm going, he said. The Empress stepped forward instantly. You are not going alone. The shuttle descended through unstable gravity fields toward the wreck. Radiation storms flickered around them, remnants of weapons long gone but never forgotten. Inside the broken ship, survivors clung to failing systems. 2 humans, injured, dehydrated, terrified. When they saw the Empress through the shattered hull, fear flashed across their faces, then confusion, then disbelief. The human spoke first, calm and steady. "We're here to help," one of the survivors laughed weakly. "Of course you are. They were evacuated just in time." The wreck collapsed moments later, swallowed by debris. Back aboard the flagship, medical systems worked overtime. The survivors stabilized, but one condition remained critical: radiation poisoning. The Empress stood outside the medical chamber, listening to the machines struggle. "They will die," she said flatly. The human looked at her. "Unless we find a way to slow it." She closed her eyes. "There is a way," she said. "But it will weaken me, permanently." He turned sharply. "No." She met his gaze without fear. "These humans entered a grave I created. If I can undo even part of that damage, I must." "You don't owe them your life," he said. "I owe the galaxy proof," she replied. "And I owe myself truth." Before he could stop her, she entered the chamber. The living armor peeled back, exposing patterns of energy woven into her body. She placed her hand against the containment field, channeling power slowly, carefully. The machines screamed in protest. So did she. The radiation levels dropped, slowly, painfully. One life stabilized, then the other. When it was done, the Empress collapsed. The human caught her before she hit the floor. Her armor dulled, permanently altered. A part of her strength faded, never to return. She opened her eyes weakly. "Did they live?" "Yes," he whispered. "They're alive." That was enough. News spread fast. The Nightmare Empress had saved human lives. Not through force, through sacrifice. The galaxy reacted violently. Some worlds called it manipulation, a performance, a trick. Others saw something impossible, a ruler giving up power without demand. The observers recorded everything. Back in the throne chamber, the Empress recovered slowly. She could feel the loss inside her like a missing limb. "You're different now," the human said gently. She nodded. "I am less." "No," he replied. "You're more." She studied him, exhaustion softening her expression. "If I fall because of this path, I'll be there," he said immediately. She believed him. Outside, unknown to them both, dark movements stirred. Not empires, not fleets, something older. Something that remembered the Empress before fear, and did not approve of what she had become. The first sign was silence, not the peaceful kind, not the quiet of space between stars. This silence pressed inward, heavy and wrong, like the galaxy itself was holding its breath. The Empress felt it before any sensor reacted. She straightened slowly, pain still lingering in her body from what she had given away. The living armor did not respond as it once had. It obeyed, but without urgency. "They are awake," she said. The human looked up from the console. "Who?" She did not answer immediately. Her gaze fixed on the dark beyond the viewport. "The ones who made me," she said at last. Long-range sensors finally screamed to life. Not with ships, not with fleets. With structures unfolding from nothing vast, ancient shapes bending space around them. No known empire signature matched them. The human swallowed. "Those aren't natural." "No," the Empress said quietly. "They are custodians. Memories surfaced old, painful, carefully buried." She spoke as they came. "I was not born an Empress," she said. "I was designed, shaped to be a solution." The human stayed silent. Long before the current empires rose, the galaxy nearly destroyed itself. Endless war, endless escalation. The custodians intervened. They created beings like me to enforce balance. "Enforcers," the human said. She nodded. "Executioners, if necessary." The ancient structures drew closer. Their presence stripped away pretense. No threats, no communication. Judgment did not announce itself. "They will not accept what I have become," she continued. "Compassion was never part of my function. The human clenched his jaw. So what happens now? They will erase me, she said calmly, and correct the imbalance. The ship trembled not from attack, but from gravity distortion. Reality bent as the first custodian construct fully emerged. For the first time, fear touched the human, not for himself. For her. You can't fight that, he said. I know, and you won't run. No. He made his decision then. Something humans were famous for. He stepped forward, placing himself between her and the viewport. Then they go through me. She stared at him. That will mean nothing to them, maybe, he said. But it means something to me. The custodians finally spoke not in words, but in understanding. Knowledge flooded the chamber, cold and precise. The Empress felt herself being measured, weighed, found wanting. Deviation detected. Function corrupted. Correction required. Pain lanced through her as systems within her reacted. The living armor strained, trying to return her to what she had been. She cried out once, then stopped herself. The human felt it too, not the pain, but the choice being forced on her. He accessed the COM system, broadcasting on all channels, not as a threat, not as a plea, as a statement. She chose, he said. That should matter. The custodians did not respond. They began the correction. The Empress fell to her knees. Memories flashed, worlds burning, orders followed, fear obeyed. The galaxy she once was, and the galaxy she was becoming. The human reached her side, gripping her hand. You're not a weapon, he said fiercely. You're a person. For the first time, the custodians hesitated. Not because of power, because of contradiction. The Empress looked up at the towering constructs through tears she had never shed before. If balance demands cruelty, she whispered, then balance is flawed. The human amplified her words across the network, raw and unfiltered. Observers listened. Civilians listened. Even empires listened. The custodians paused. Calculation cascaded. A variable they had not planned for had entered the system. Choice. And it came from a Deathworlder, standing beside the galaxy's greatest nightmare. The correction halted, but did not withdraw. Warning signals echoed through space. The Empress slumped, weak but alive. The human held her upright, heart pounding. That bought us time, he said softly. Not peace, she nodded. Time is enough. Outside, the ancient structures shifted position, not retreating. Watching, learning. For the first time since their creation, the custodians did not fully understand the system they controlled. And that uncertainty terrified the galaxy more than any war ever had. The galaxy did not sleep. Every channel carried fragments of the same impossible sight. Ancient structures older than history itself. The Alien Empress on her knees. A human standing beside her, refusing to move. Fear returned, but it was different now. This fear was uncertain. The custodians remained still, suspended like thoughts that refused to finish forming. Their silence stretched across star systems, pressing against every civilization that had ever relied on them without knowing they existed. The Empress struggled to stand. The humans supported her, feeling how much weaker she had become. Her weight was heavier now, not because of armor, but because of choice. They are recalculating, she said quietly. I have disrupted a law older than empires. What law? He asked. That function outweighs will, she replied. That tools do not choose. Across the galaxy, the effects were immediate. Custodian systems that had quietly influenced balance for ages began to fail. Automated conflict dampeners shut down. Old restrictions lifted. Long-frozen tensions surfaced. Empires realized something terrifying. They were alone now. Some leaders panicked and prepared for war. Others hesitated, remembering the broadcast. Remembering the Empress's words. Remembering the human who refused to step aside. For the first time, the galaxy had to decide without a higher force correcting its mistakes. Inside the flagship, alarms sounded again. But these were different. Not damage, not attack. Energy convergence. The Empress gasped as the living armor reacted violently, not to repair, but to change. Lines of light tore through it, reshaping ancient designs into something unstable. "This is not supposed to happen," she whispered. The human tightened his grip. "What's happening to you?" "I am becoming undefined," she said. "No longer an enforcer. Not yet free." The custodian spoke again, not in command but inquiry. "Deviation persists. Outcome uncertain. Justification required." The human did not wait for permission. He activated every open channel, broadcasting to the entire galaxy. "She saved lives," he said. "Not because she was ordered to. Because she chose to." Images followed human survivors, the pirate convoy, worlds spared, lives changed. "She lost power to do it," he continued. "What kind of weapon chooses to become weaker to protect others?" The custodians processed. The galaxy listened. The Empress felt something shift, not inside her, but around her. The living armor stopped resisting. It adapted. Her crown did not reform as it once had. It dissolved. In its place, something new took shape, simpler, quieter, built not for dominance but presence. She stood on her own. Not tall with terror, tall with resolve. The custodians paused fully now. Space itself seemed to wait, variable confirmed. Choice generates stability. Legacy parameters incomplete. The Empress stepped forward, her voice steady despite the pain. "You created me to end wars," she said. But war was never the disease. The human looked at her, realizing what she was doing. "You don't have to," he began. "Yes," she said softly. "I do." She faced the ancient structures. "I will not be your correction," she continued. "I will be your proof." Energy surged. Not outward, inward. The Empress screamed not in agony, but release. Layers of control burned away. Ancient commands shattered. The living armor reformed completely, no longer bound to custodian design. She collapsed. The human caught her again, heart racing. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then she breathed. Slow, real, human-like. The custodians withdrew slightly. Assessment ongoing. Subject no longer compatible. Intervention suspended. Suspended, not ended. The galaxy erupted. Some worlds cheered. Others prepared weapons. No one knew what tomorrow would bring. The Empress opened her eyes. She felt smaller. And more real than she had ever been. "I am no longer what I was," she said quietly. The human smiled through exhaustion. "Good." She looked at him, something deep and unspoken passing between them. "But now," she added, "the galaxy must decide who it wants to be. Outside." The ancient structures faded into the dark, not gone, but watching from afar. The age of enforced balance had cracked. And in that crack, something fragile and dangerous began to grow. Freedom. The galaxy waited, not in unity, not in peace, but in awareness. The ancient custodians had withdrawn into deep space, no longer correcting, no longer enforcing. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy existed without an invisible hand shaping outcomes. Empires felt exposed. So did the Empress. Her flagship no longer carried the weight it once had. The living armor was quieter now, responding only to her will, not to ancient commands. The throne chamber felt different, less like a seat of power, more like a place of memory. She stood at the viewport, watching distant stars. "I feel finite," she said softly. The human stood beside her. "That's what being alive feels like." She nodded slowly. "I was never alive before." News arrived in fragments. Some worlds disarmed portions of their fleets, unsure without custodian balance. Others doubled down, afraid freedom would bring chaos. A few sent messages, not demands, not threats, questions. The Empress answered only some of them, not as a ruler, as herself. She refused titles. Refused obedience. Refused fear. When asked what she would do now, her response spread across the galaxy. "I will stay where I am needed. I will leave where I am not. that unsettled many. But it comforted more than anyone expected. On a small world once marked for destruction, one she had scarred centuries ago, the Empress asked to land. No fleet escorted her, only the human. The surface still bore wounds, broken land, struggling life. Survivors who remembered legends of fire and silence. They gathered when her presence was felt. Some trembled. Some hated. Some simply stared. The Empress stepped forward, unarmored for the first time. No crown, no shield, no display of power. "I cannot undo what I did," she said plainly. "I will not ask forgiveness. But I will help rebuild, if you allow it." Silence followed. Then a child stepped forward. "Not afraid, just curious. Will you stay?" the child asked. The Empress looked down, surprised by how much the question mattered. "Yes," she said. "For as long as you want me to." That was how it began, not with conquest, with repair. The human stayed too, not as a guard, not as a hero, just present, helping where he could, fixing what was broken, listening when it mattered. They were watched, studied, judged, but they were not attacked. The custodians observed from beyond reach, calculating outcomes that no longer followed their logic. Balance had not collapsed, it had changed. Over time the galaxy adapted, slowly, unevenly, painfully, but without forced correction. Civilizations learned something new, responsibility. One quiet evening, long after the stars had settled into familiar patterns, the Empress sat beside the human, watching lights flicker across the recovering world. "I was the universe's greatest nightmare," she said. He smiled faintly. "You were what the universe made when it didn't know another way." "And now?" she asked. "Now," he said, "you're proof that even the worst story can change." She considered that. Then, softly, she reached for his hand. Not as a ruler, not as a weapon. As someone choosing connection. Far away, the custodians recorded a final note before falling silent. Correction systems obsolete. Choice produces resilience. Human variable, decisive. The galaxy moved forward without certainty, without guarantees, but with something that had never truly had before. Hope that was earned. And somewhere on a once broken world, a former nightmare learned how to live. Because one Deathworlder saw her broken heart and stayed.